The Galactic Council convened an emergency session 3 days after the operation. Every seat was filled. Every species wanted to understand what had just happened and what it meant for the future. The great hall that had seemed so impressive to Hyunwoo on his first visit now felt smaller. Its ancient grandeur diminished by recent events. Speaker Thorol called the session to order, his reptilian features showing strain. We are here to address humanity's unprecedented action against the Vex Confederation. Multiple violations of Council law have occurred. Territorial sovereignty was breached. Military force was employed without authorization. Diplomatic immunity was violated when Representative Krenak was seized from this very station. Murmurs rippled through the assembly. Some voices called for sanctions, others for expulsion. A few even suggested military action against Earth. Then President Minji entered the chamber. She walked alone, without guards or advisors, dressed simply in dark blue. Every eye in the vast hall turned to watch her. She moved with steady confidence to the center of the floor, where speakers traditionally stood. And she waited. President Minji, Thorol's voice boomed. You have much to answer for. Your species has committed acts that cannot— My species delivered justice, Minji interrupted calmly. Something this council failed to do. Angry clicking and roars erupted from various delegates. Thorol's scales darkened with fury. You dare speak to this council with such disrespect? I speak truth, Minji replied. Ambassador Hyunwoo was murdered. We provided evidence. You did nothing. So we acted ourselves. You invaded sovereign territory, a Vex delegate shouted. You kidnapped our citizens. We arrested criminals, Minji corrected. There is a difference. Every person we took was directly involved in the assassination. We have proof, evidence that we tried to share with this council before taking action. She activated a display that showed the findings from investigator Do-hyun's report. Chemical analysis, financial records, communication intercepts, witness statements, every piece of evidence that proved Vex involvement. This information was available to you, Minji said. You chose to ignore it. You chose to let murderers walk free. So we made a choice as well. The Council's investigative process takes time, Thorol argued. We cannot rush to judgment based on how much time, Minji demanded. How many years would you have spent forming committees and writing reports while my ambassador's killer lived free? While he planned his next murder, silence fell. Because everyone in that hall knew she was right. The Council's investigations were famous for taking decades to reach conclusions. Justice delayed so long it became meaningless. A delegate from one of the smaller species stood. What the humans did was illegal. But can we honestly say it was wrong? The law must be respected, Thorol insisted. The law failed, another voice called out. It failed the ambassador. It failed justice. Maybe the law needs to change, more voices joined in. The assembly split into factions arguing different positions. Some demanded humanity face consequences. Others suggested the humans had simply done what the council should have done. The debate grew heated. Minji waited until the noise died down. Then she spoke again, her voice carrying across the hall. You may not like what we did. You may fear it. But understand this, we did not seek war. We sought justice. We did not attack civilians or invade territory to conquer it. We removed criminals from circulation, and we will try them fairly according to human law, which guarantees them rights and protections that many of your species do not provide. We are not your enemies. We are not conquerors. But we will not allow our people to be murdered without response. If the council will not provide justice, we will provide it ourselves. That is not a threat. It is simply reality. She paused, looking around the hall. You have a choice now. You can sanction us, expel us, even attack us if you dare. Or you can work with us to create a system where justice actually means something, where diplomats can do their jobs without fear of assassination, where accountability exists for those who commit crimes. The old ways have brought you 10,000 years of endless small wars, of unpunished crimes, of justice that moves so slowly it might as well not exist at all. Perhaps it's time to try something new. With that, she turned and walked out. Not fleeing, not retreating, simply leaving because she had said what needed saying. Behind her, the council erupted in chaos. The debates continued for weeks. Delegates argued about humanity's actions from every possible angle. Some species called for harsh punishment. Others quietly admitted that the humans had done what they wished they could do themselves. Many smaller species, those who had suffered crimes without recourse, watched with new hope, and gradually reality settled in. Humanity had demonstrated capabilities no one had suspected. Their stealth technology was decades ahead of anyone else's. Their precision weapons were unmatched. Their intelligence networks were frighteningly effective. Attacking Earth would be costly, perhaps impossible. More importantly, the evidence against the Vex conspirators was undeniable. Once it became public, even the Council couldn't ignore it. Several Council members who had tacitly approved the assassination were exposed and forced to resign in disgrace. The corruption ran deeper than anyone wanted to admit. In the end, the Council issued a formal reprimand to humanity for violating sovereignty laws. And then quietly they changed those laws. New protocols were established for investigating diplomatic crimes. Timelines were set. Accountability measures were added. It wasn't everything humanity wanted, but it was progress. Ambassador Sohee took her seat in the Council 6 months after Hyunwoo's death. She was younger than him, sharper-edged, less patient with diplomatic nonsense. She had been his protégé, learned everything from him, and now she would continue his work. The Council recognizes Ambassador Sohee of Earth, Speaker Thorol said. His voice lacking its usual contempt, Sohee stood. I propose new regulations regarding trade disputes in the outer colonies. My proposal includes mandatory mediation and clear consequences for violations. She spoke with confidence. And this time delegates listened. They took notes. They asked serious questions. Because they had learned that when humans said something, they meant it. And when they promised consequences, those consequences would come. After the session, several delegates approached her. Some offered condolences for Hyunwoo. Others asked about Earth's technology. A few wanted to discuss potential alliances. The smaller species especially wanted to know if humanity would help them when the Council ignored their problems. We're not the galaxy's police force, Sohee told them carefully, but we believe in justice. If you have legitimate grievances and the Council won't help, come talk to us. We'll see what we can do. It was a careful promise. Not too much, not too little. But it sent a message humanity was watching. The old order, where the strong did as they pleased and the weak suffered, was changing. On Earth, a memorial was built in Ambassador Hyunwoo's honor. Commander Ji-won attended the dedication ceremony, her injuries healed but her heart still carrying scars. The memorial listed not just Hyunwoo's name, but all the diplomats from all species who had died in service without justice. He believed peace was possible, Ji-won said during her speech. He died proving it. And now, because of what happened after his death, maybe the galaxy will actually try to achieve it. The trials of the 23 conspirators were broadcast across every channel in the galaxy. They were given lawyers, allowed to present evidence, treated according to human law. It was more fairness than most galactic criminals ever received. Every session was recorded, every verdict explained. Kreenak was found guilty of ordering the assassination and sentenced to life imprisonment. Krevshan was convicted of providing the means and materials. Admiral Shintar was found guilty of conspiracy. Down the list, each person was judged individually, their specific crimes detailed, their punishments proportional. The galaxy watched and learned. This was human justice, firm but fair, based on evidence, not politics. Accountability for actions regardless of species or status. It was different from what most civilizations practiced, and some of them started to think maybe different wasn't bad. Admiral Taeyang received requests from 17 different species, asking for military advisors or technology-sharing agreements. She approved 3 carefully chosen species that shared human values about precision and minimizing casualties. The rest were politely declined. We're not selling weapons, she told her staff. We're sharing principles. Anyone can build bigger guns. Teaching restraint and precision is harder but more valuable. Minister Youngman, who had urged diplomatic caution, found his office busier than ever. Species that had ignored Earth for years now wanted treaties and trade agreements. Humanity's reputation had shifted overnight from newcomers to be dismissed to a force to be respected. Was it worth it? Someone asked him during a press conference. All the risk, all the consequences we might have faced? Youngman thought about Hyunwoo, about his dedication to peace, about the galaxy that had let him die without caring. Yes, he said finally, because the alternative was teaching the galaxy that humans were disposable, that our lives didn't matter. We couldn't accept that. No species should accept that. The operation began at exactly 0400 hours Galactic Standard Time. Across 23 locations in Vex space, human forces struck simultaneously. Captain Unji watched her displays as the silent arrow descended through the atmosphere of the Vex homeworld. Their stealth systems were running at maximum capacity, bending light and radiation around the hull. To every sensor on the planet, they were invisible. Entering target zone, her pilot reported. 2 kilometers to bunker entrance. Weapons ready, Unji ordered. Remember, precision only. No collateral damage. Below them, War Leader Krevshan slept in his reinforced bunker, protected by 2 kilometers of rock and enough security to stop an army. He believed himself untouchable. He had designed the facility himself, accounting for every possible attack vector. He hadn't accounted for humans. The silent arrow fired a single penetrator round. It wasn't an explosive. It was a drill, spinning at impossible speeds, made of materials that could cut through anything. It punched through rock like paper, drilling deeper and deeper until it reached the bunker's outer wall. Then it detonated, not with fire or force, but with an electromagnetic pulse that shut down every electronic system in the facility. Lights died. Security fields collapsed. Automated defenses went dark. 30 seconds later, human troops descended on cables through the hole the penetrator had created. They wore armor that made them look like shadows, equipped with weapons that fired silent, precise shots. Vex guards fell before they could raise alarms. Security checkpoints were bypassed with technology the Vex had never seen. In less than 4 minutes, the team reached Krevshan's personal quarters. The war leader woke to find armored humans surrounding his bed, weapons trained on his head. War Leader Krevshan, Yunji said through her helmet's speakers. You are under arrest for the murder of Ambassador Hyunwoo and 11 other beings. You will come with us. Krevshan's mandibles clicked in fury. You dare? You invade Vex territory? This is an act of war. No, Yunji said calmly. This is justice. Now move. Across Vex space, similar scenes played out. Admiral Sintar was extracted from her flagship while it orbited a military base. Engineer Telvar was taken from his laboratory while working on new weapons. Representative Kreenak was pulled from his diplomatic quarters on Veritas Prime, right under the Council's nose. Every target, every conspirator, every person involved in Hyunwoo's assassination was captured within 6 hours. Not killed, though it would have been easier. Captured. Because humanity wanted them to face trial, to have the truth revealed, to answer for what they had done. When Vex military forces finally responded, they found themselves facing technology they didn't understand. Human ships that appeared and disappeared from sensors at will, weapons that struck with surgical precision, defenses that seemed to anticipate every attack. A Vex battle group tried to engage the silent arrow as it left the atmosphere. They fired enough ordnance to destroy a small moon. Every shot missed. The human ship danced between attacks like it could see the future, its movements impossible to track or predict. Then it returned fire, not at the ships but at their weapon systems. One by one, Vex cruisers found their guns disabled, their missiles jammed, their defenses neutralized. They were left floating in space, intact but harmless, while the silent arrow vanished back into the darkness. What are they? A Vex commander transmitted in panic. What kind of weapons are these? No answer came. The humans had already moved to their next objective. Admiral Taeyang watched the operation unfold from Earth's command center. Every screen showed a different strike team, a different target, a different success. The coordination was flawless. Decades of planning, years of preparation, months of intelligence gathering, all coming together in 6 hours of precision warfare. Target 7 secured, reported Captain Yunji. Krevshan in custody. Target 12 secured. Another team leader confirmed. Admiral Shintar captured. Target 1 secured, a third voice added. Kreenak is ours. One by one reports came in. All positive. All successful. Not a single target escaped. Not a single human casualty. The only Vex losses were guards who had chosen to fight rather than surrender. Send the broadcast, Taeyang ordered. Across every communication channel in the galaxy, on every screen and display, a message appeared. It showed the faces of the 23 conspirators now in human custody. It displayed the evidence of their crime, laid out in clear, undeniable detail. And it showed President Minji, addressing the galaxy directly. These beings murdered our ambassador, she said, her voice calm but hard as steel. They believed they would face no consequences. They believed humanity would accept their death and move on. They were wrong. We did not invade the Vex Confederation. We did not attack their cities or harm their civilians. We executed a justice operation, targeting only those responsible for this crime. These 23 individuals are now in our custody and will face trial for their actions. To the Galactic Council, we say this: you had the power to deliver justice and chose not to. So we did it ourselves. These conspirators will be tried fairly, with all evidence made public. They will have the opportunity to defend themselves, and when they are found guilty, they will face the consequences of their actions. To the Vex Confederation, we say this: we have no quarrel with your people. Our operation targeted only those who committed murder. Your military forces are intact. Your worlds are untouched. We took what we came for and nothing more. But understand this: any attempt to retaliate will be met with the same precision and force. To all species in the Council, we say this: humanity will not accept injustice. We will not allow our people to be murdered without consequence. If the Council will not deliver justice, we will. This is not a threat. This is a promise. The broadcast ended. Silence fell across the galaxy. In the Council chambers on Veritas Prime, Speaker Thorol stared at the screen in shock. Around him, delegates from 47 species sat in stunned silence. The humans had just done something that should have been impossible. They had struck across vast distances with perfect coordination, executed the most precise military operation anyone had ever witnessed, and done it all without starting a war. How? Someone whispered. Their technology, another answered. We underestimated their technology. We underestimated everything about them, a third voice added. Krenak's empty seat seemed to mock them all. The Vex representative had been taken from his quarters on this very station, supposedly one of the most secure locations in the galaxy. Human forces had entered and left without anyone noticing until it was too late. In Vex space, the military command scrambled to respond. War leader Krevshan had been their strategic commander. Admiral Shintar had been their intelligence chief. 19 others had held critical positions, all gone. All taken by humans who struck like ghosts and disappeared before anyone could react. We should retaliate, one commander urged. This cannot stand. Retaliate how? Another demanded. They took what they wanted and left. Our forces couldn't touch them. If we attack Earth directly, they'll do the same thing again. This time maybe they'll target all of us. We could appeal to the Council for support, a third suggested weakly. Bitter laughter answered that idea. The Council had done nothing when Hyunwoo was murdered. Why would they help the Vex now? On Earth, celebrations were muted. This wasn't a victory to cheer. It was justice delivered at the point of a gun, proof that humanity could and would defend its people when no one else would. Pride mixed with sorrow. They had shown their strength, but only because someone had forced them to. Commander Jiwon watched the prisoners arrive at the secure facility where they would be held. She saw Krenak, the being who had threatened her ambassador, who had stood in the smoke and fire, satisfied with his murder. Now he was in chains, facing human justice. Ambassador Hyunwoo, she whispered to the empty air. We got them. All of them. Admiral Taeyang received reports from all strike teams. Perfect execution. 0 human casualties. All objectives achieved. It was the most successful military operation in Earth's history. But as she looked at the tactical displays, she felt no triumph. Just tired satisfaction that a job was done. Justice had been served. But it had cost something to deliver it. The galaxy now knew that humanity was not to be crossed. That came with its own dangers. What happens now? Commander Sunwoo asked. Now we see how the galaxy responds, Taeyang replied. We've proven we can strike anywhere, anytime. That we have technology and capabilities they didn't expect. Some will fear us. Some will respect us. And some will hate us for showing them up. Was it worth it? Taeyang thought about Hyunwoo, about the peace agreements he had brokered, about the lives he had saved. Yes, she said finally, because the alternative was letting them get away with murder. And that was never an option. In his cell, Krenak raged against the walls, demanding release, threatening retaliation, insisting the Council would never allow this. But deep inside, he knew the truth. The humans had won. They had proven themselves more capable, more determined, more dangerous than anyone had believed possible, and there was nothing he could do about it. Admiral Taeyang stood in the command center of Earth's military headquarters, watching displays that showed the positions of every human ship in the galaxy. To an outside observer, it would look like chaos. Vessels were leaving their posts, abandoning trade routes, pulling back from border patrols. It looked like retreat. It wasn't. Status? She asked. All units reporting ready, Commander Sunwoo replied. The general was built like a tank, with scars that spoke of ground combat experience. Special operations teams are in position. Intelligence networks activated. We have eyes on 70% of primary targets, and the other 30% being located as we speak. Captain Yoonji's reconnaissance group is handling the difficult ones. Taeyang nodded. Captain Yoonji commanded the Silent Arrow, Earth's most advanced stealth vessel. If anyone could find targets that didn't want to be found, it was her. What about the Council? Sunwoo asked. They're watching our movements. Let them watch, Taeyang said. They think we're incompetent. They think we're afraid. Let them keep thinking that until it's too late. On the other side of the galaxy, Minister Youngman sat in his office, trying one last time to use diplomatic channels. He had spent 3 days calling in every favor, speaking to every contact, attempting to build support for action against the Vex. He had gotten nowhere. The evidence is circumstantial, the Drexari ambassador told him. We sympathize with your loss, but we cannot support military action based on suspicion. The Kolthan representative was more blunt. Your ambassador helped us achieve peace. We are grateful, but we will not go to war for you. The Vex are powerful. We are not. Even species that privately agreed with humanity's assessment refused to act publicly. The Vex Confederation was too large, too influential, too dangerous to challenge. It was easier to let one dead diplomat fade into history. Youngman made his final report to President Minji. No support. Not even moral support. We're alone in this. We were always alone in this, Minji said quietly. That's what I'm counting on. In the darkness between stars, the Silent Arrow drifted like a ghost. Its hull was darker than space itself, absorbing every wavelength of radiation. Its engines ran cold. To any sensor, any scan, any observation, it simply didn't exist. Inside, Captain Yoonji studied holographic displays showing the Vex homeworld and surrounding systems. Target 7 confirmed, she said to her crew. War Leader Krevshan. Location, command bunker 2 kilometers underground, coordinates verified. Her first officer, a woman named Hana, whistled softly. 2 kilometers of reinforced rock. That's going to be difficult. Difficult isn't impossible, Yoonji said. Tag it. Move to target 8. The Silent Arrow slipped away, leaving behind a network of microsensors that would track every movement in and out of that bunker. Across Vex space, 16 other human vessels were doing the same thing. Not preparing for invasion. Not positioning for orbital bombardment. Just watching. Learning. Mapping. Commander Jiwon sat in a secure room at Earth's military headquarters. Her injuries still healing, but her mind sharp. Before her were intelligence reports from across the galaxy. Names, faces, locations. The people who had been involved in Hyunwoo's assassination. Kreenak, she said, pointing to a hologram. Representative. He gave the order. Admiral Taeyang studied the insectoid's image. You're certain? I heard him threaten Ambassador Hyunwoo. I saw his satisfaction after the explosion, and our intelligence confirms he met with Vex military commanders 3 times in the week before the attack. Jiwon's voice was cold. He did this. Then he's target 1, Taeyang said. Who else? Jiwon pulled up more files. War Leader Krevshan. He provided the bomb and the technical expertise. Admiral Shintar, head of Vex intelligence. She supplied information about the ambassador's schedule and security protocols. Engineer Telvar, who designed the explosive, and 19 others who were involved in planning, logistics, or support. 23 targets total, Taeyang said. Can we reach them all? We can, Jiwon said. But it will require perfect timing and flawless execution. Then that's what we'll deliver. The Galactic Council met in emergency session to discuss humanity's strange military movements. Speaker Thorol addressed the assembly with barely concealed contempt. The humans are behaving erratically, he announced. Their ships move without pattern. Their forces scatter rather than concentrate. If this is their response to our rejection of their demands, it is laughable. Perhaps they realize their weakness, Kreenak suggested, mandibles clicking. Perhaps they understand they cannot challenge us and are simply making noise before accepting reality. Or perhaps they're planning something, said a representative from one of the smaller species. Humans think differently than we do. Their strategies don't always follow conventional patterns. They're barely past chemical rockets, another delegate scoffed. What strategy could they possibly employ that we haven't seen in 100,000 years of warfare? The council voted to increase monitoring of human activities but take no direct action. Humanity was behaving strangely but not threateningly. Let them have their tantrum. In his quarters on Veritas Prime, investigator Do-hyun continued working. The council might have closed the case, but he hadn't. He analyzed every piece of evidence, every witness statement, every technical detail. And slowly he built an airtight case. The bomb components were manufactured in Vex space. The timing matched Vex military operations schedules. The explosive compound was unique to Vex weapons labs. Financial records showed payments from Vex government accounts to known assassins. Communication intercepts revealed coded messages between Krenak and military commanders. Alone, each piece was circumstantial. Together they formed a picture so clear that even the council couldn't ignore it. Do-hyun compiled everything into a single report and sent it to Earth. "This is enough for conviction in any court," he told Admiral Taeyang during a secure call. "The Vex did this." Krenak ordered it. "And the council knows it. But they won't act," Taeyang said. "No," Do-hyun agreed. "They won't. Then we will." 48 hours before the operation began, President Minji addressed Earth's population. Her message was broadcast across every human colony, every station, every ship. Her words were measured, but her meaning was clear. "Ambassador Hyunwoo died doing the job we asked him to do," she said. "He sought peace in a galaxy that had forgotten what peace means. He was murdered for that, and the galaxy expects us to accept his death and move on." She paused, letting that sink in. "We will not accept it. We will not move on. Justice delayed is justice denied, and we will not let our people die without consequence. In the coming days, Earth will take action, not for conquest, not for territory, not for revenge, but for justice. Some will call us rash, some will call us dangerous. Let them. Because when humanity makes a promise, we keep it, and we promised Ambassador Hyunwoo's family that his death would mean something. That promise will be kept," the speech ended. Across human space, military personnel reported to their stations. Civilian populations prepared for possible retaliation. Everyone understood what was coming, even if they didn't know the details. War was coming, but not the kind of war anyone expected. Admiral Taeyang reviewed the final operation plans. 23 targets across Vex space, all to be hit simultaneously. No margin for error, no room for mistakes. One chance to prove that humanity meant what it said. "All units report ready," Commander Sunwoo confirmed. "Captain Yoonji?" Taeyang asked, Silent Arrow standing by. "We have positive identification on all targets. Weapons locked. Waiting for your order." Taeyang looked at the countdown timer. In 6 hours, human forces would strike. The galaxy would learn what happened when you murdered Earth's diplomats and expected no consequences. "Execute in 6 hours," she said, "and make sure the whole galaxy is watching." The operation was called Justice Dawn. In 6 hours, the stars would learn that humanity's patience had limits. And when those limits were reached, the response would be swift, precise, and absolutely merciless. Somewhere in Vex space, Krenak rested in his chambers, secure in the knowledge that he had gotten away with murder. The humans were irrelevant. Their threats were empty. Their anger would fade like all anger eventually did. He had no idea that human ships were already in position, that targeting systems were locked onto his location, that his name was at the top of a very specific list. He would learn soon enough. They all would. The message reached Earth 17 hours after the explosion. President Minji was in a meeting about agricultural exports when her chief of staff entered, face pale. She knew immediately that something terrible had happened. "You didn't interrupt a president without cause, Ambassador Hyunwoo," the chief of staff said quietly. "He's dead. Bombing at Veritas Prime. 12 casualties total." Minji felt the words hit her like physical blows. She had known Hyunwoo for 20 years. They had served together in Earth's early diplomatic corps when humanity first joined the Galactic Council. He had been at her inauguration. He was godfather to her son. "How?" she asked, her voice steady despite the storm inside. "Still investigating. Commander Ji-won survived. She's in critical condition but stable. Early reports suggest it was a deliberate attack. Within the hour, Minji had convened an emergency session of Earth's government. Military leaders, intelligence chiefs, and diplomatic advisors filled the secure conference room. Images from Veritas Prime played on the screens. The shattered reception hall. Bodies covered in sheets. Alien security forces moving through debris. What do we know? Minji asked. Admiral Taeyang stood, a tall woman with silver hair and sharp eyes. The bomb was placed beneath the floor, directly under where Ambassador Hyunwoo was standing. Forensics indicate it was designed with human biology specifically in mind. The blast pattern, the explosive composition, everything calculated for maximum lethality against our species. So this was an assassination, said Minister Youngmin, head of Foreign Affairs. Without question, Taeyang confirmed. The other casualties were collateral. Hyunwoo was the target. Minji's hands tightened into fists on the table. Has the council responded? Youngmin's expression darkened. They issued a standard condolence statement. Generic. The same thing they send when a transport ship crashes or a satellite fails. They've promised an investigation. Promised, Minji repeated. What's that worth? Based on historical precedent? Very little, Youngmin admitted. The council has investigated 47 diplomatic deaths in the last century. 12 cases were closed without findings. 23 were ruled accidents. The rest were blamed on unspecified extremist groups. So they do nothing, Minji said flatly. They move slowly, Youngmin said carefully. Their judicial processes take years, sometimes decades. Different species have different concepts of justice and— A man is dead, Minji interrupted. Our man. Murdered while doing his job. And you're telling me they'll form committees and write reports while his killer walks free? Youngmin said nothing. The answer was obvious. 2 days later, investigator Do-hyun arrived at Veritas Prime. He was Earth's best forensics specialist, a man who had solved cases that seemed impossible. He had examined murder scenes from the slums of Earth to the orbital platforms of Mars, but nothing had prepared him for working in a place where 47 species had 47 different ideas about evidence and procedure. The council provided limited access to the crime scene. Many areas had already been cleaned. Security footage had gaps that officials explained away as technical malfunctions. Witnesses gave contradictory statements when they gave statements at all. Do-hyun worked with what he had. He analyzed blast patterns and chemical residue. He interviewed survivors through translators. He reconstructed the moments before the explosion using every available piece of data. And slowly a picture emerged. The bomb was military grade, he reported to Minji via secure channel, not something a random terrorist could acquire. The timing device was sophisticated, the explosive compound rare. It required resources and expertise. Source? Minji asked. 3 possible manufacturers, all located in Vex Confederation space. Minji's eyes narrowed. The insects. That's circumstantial, Do-hyun warned. But yes, and there's more. Commander Ji-won regained consciousness. She remembers Representative Krenak approaching the ambassador about an hour before the explosion. He made threats. Threats? Admiral Taeyang leaned forward. What kind? Veiled ones. About upsetting old arrangements. About chaos following interference. Ji-won documented it in her report before the attack. Minji looked at her advisors. So we have motive, means, and circumstantial evidence pointing to the Vex. What do we do with it? Minister Youngmin shifted uncomfortably. We present it to the council. Request a formal investigation. Follow proper channels. We did that, Minji said coldly. What did it get us? It's been 3 days, Youngmin protested. These things take time. How much time? Minji stood pacing. How long before they forget? Before it becomes just another unsolved case in their archives? Before some other diplomat dies and the same thing happens? Madam President, Youngmin said carefully, we must consider the political realities. We're still new to the council. We don't have the influence or allies to push this forward alone. If we act rashly, we could alienate the very people we need. The very people who are doing nothing, Minji said. The very people who see our ambassador's murder as acceptable losses. Admiral Taeyang spoke quietly. There is another option. Everyone turned to look at her. She met Minji's gaze steadily. We act ourselves. Find those responsible. Extract justice. No, that would be an act of war, Youngmin said, horrified. The council would condemn us. We'd be isolated, sanctioned, possibly expelled, would we? Taeyang asked. The council's power rests on consensus. If we prove the Vex committed this attack and show the Council ignored it, other species might think twice about supporting sanctions. Or they might unite against us, Youngman countered. We'd be painting a target on every human in Council space. The argument continued, but Minji barely heard it. She was thinking about Hyunwoo, about his daughter who would grow up without a father, about the message his death sent to every human diplomat in the galaxy. That evening, she visited Jiwon in the medical facility. The commander's head was wrapped in bandages, her arm in a regeneration cast, but her eyes were clear and sharp. "Tell me what you saw," Minji said. Jiwon described the explosion, her words precise despite the trauma. She detailed Kreenok's threats. She explained how the ambassador had insisted on staying, on doing his job despite the danger. He believed in the work, she said. Believed peace was possible. It is, Minji said quietly, but someone murdered him for believing it, and the galaxy expects us to accept that. What will you do? Jiwon asked. Minji stood. What humans have always done when justice fails. We'll make our own. She returned to her office and drafted 2 documents. The first was a formal demand to the Galactic Council. Surrender those responsible for Hyunwoo's assassination or face consequences. The second was classified, marked for Admiral Taeyang's eyes only. When Youngman saw the demands, he blanched. They'll reject this. They'll see it as an ultimatum. That's because it is one, Minji said. And when they refuse? Minji's expression hardened. Then they'll learn that humanity doesn't forget our dead, and we don't let murder go unpunished no matter how many millennia of tradition say we should. The demand was delivered the next morning. Speaker Thorol read it before the assembled council, his voice dripping with contempt. The humans demand we surrender Vex officials to their justice. Based on speculation and circumstantial evidence, they threaten consequences if we refuse. Laughter rippled through the council chambers. The idea that humans, barely a century into space travel, would threaten the combined might of 47 civilizations seemed absurd. Let them threaten, Kreenok clicked. What can they do? Their fleet is small. Their weapons conventional. They are children playing at war. The council voted. The demand was rejected. Humanity's evidence was deemed insufficient. The investigation would continue at the council's pace under the council's rules. On Earth, Minji received the news without surprise. She looked at Admiral Taeyang. Do it, Taeyang nodded once. Yes, Madam President. Across human space, military forces began moving, but not in the way anyone expected. Ships didn't mass at borders. Fleets didn't deploy to defensive positions. Instead, they seemed to disappear from sensors entirely. The galaxy watched with mild curiosity, then amusement. The humans were upset. They would throw their tantrum and eventually accept reality, just like everyone else did. They had no idea what was coming. The Great Hall of Veritas Prime stretched across 3 kilometers of polished stone and crystal. Ambassador Hyunwoo walked through its entrance with careful steps, his dark formal suit a stark contrast against the rainbow of colors worn by alien delegates. Behind him, Commander Jiwon kept her hand near her weapon, her eyes scanning every shadow and movement. 47 species gathered here, representatives of worlds that had existed long before Earth even knew other life existed in the universe. Some walked on legs, others floated, and a few existed as energy patterns inside containment fields. Hyunwoo had learned to greet them all properly. It had taken him 5 years. Ambassador, Speaker Thorol's voice rumbled from above. The massive reptilian being towered over the human, his scales gleaming like ancient armor. You persist in meddling with affairs that do not concern your kind. Hyunwoo smiled, though his jaw tightened slightly. Peace concerns all of us, Speaker. The agreement between the Kolthan and the Drixari will save millions of lives. They have fought for 3,000 years, Thorol said, his vertical pupils narrowing. Your species has existed in this council for barely 15 rotations. You know nothing of their history. I know that children on both worlds are dying, Hyunwoo replied quietly. History doesn't feed the hungry or heal the wounded. Thorol made a sound like grinding stones, which Hyunwoo had learned meant dismissal. The speaker turned away, his thick tail sweeping across the floor. Jiwon moved closer to her charge. He doesn't like you very much, she whispered. He doesn't like that the Kolthan and Drixari listen to me, Hyunwoo corrected. Old powers don't enjoy watching peace break out without their permission. They moved deeper into the hall. Other delegates nodded or made their species equivalent gestures of acknowledgement. Some ignored the humans entirely. Hyunwoo had grown used to both reactions. Humanity was still the newest member of this ancient club, still proving themselves worthy of a seat at the table. The reception hall glittered with lights of every color. Long tables held foods from dozens of worlds, each carefully separated to prevent toxic reactions. Music played, though it sounded more like mathematical equations to human ears. Hyunwoo accepted a drink from a floating server, something that tasted like mint and copper. Ambassador Hyunwoo, a clicking voice said behind him. He turned to face Krenak, the insectoid representative from the Vex Confederation. The being's compound eyes reflected the hall's lights in fractured patterns. Congratulations on your recent success. The words were polite, but Hyunwoo heard the edge beneath them. Thank you, Representative. I hope it brings lasting peace, Krenak repeated, mandibles clicking. Such a human concept. You believe all conflicts can be resolved with words and compromise. I believe most conflicts can be, Hyunwoo said carefully. Violence should always be the last option. Should be. Krenak's head tilted at an unnatural angle. But sometimes, Ambassador, violence is the message itself. Sometimes it is the only language certain beings understand. Jiwon's hand moved fractionally closer to her weapon. Hyunwoo touched her arm gently, a subtle signal to wait. Is that a philosophy or a threat, Representative? Merely observation, Krenak said. Your interference in the Kolthan Drexari matter has upset many old arrangements. Resources were allocated based on their conflict. Trade routes were established. Now those arrangements must change. Then we'll help establish new ones, Hyunwoo said. Better ones. Krenak's mandibles clicked in what might have been laughter. So certain, so naive. Your species has been traveling the stars for less than a century. We have maintained order for 50,000 years. What makes you think your way is better? Because fewer people die, Hyunwoo said simply. The insectoid representative leaned closer and Hyunwoo smelled something like sulfur and old metal. Death is not the worst thing, Ambassador. Chaos is. Upset the old order and chaos follows. Remember that. Krenak moved away into the crowd. Jiwon exhaled slowly. Sir, that was definitely a threat. Noted, Hyunwoo said. Add it to the report. But we can't stop doing our job because someone doesn't like it. Our job is also staying alive, Jiwon muttered. They circulated through the reception for another hour. Hyunwoo spoke with the Drexari ambassador, who thanked him profusely for the peace agreement. He discussed trade possibilities with 3 different species. He carefully navigated conversations about Earth's growing influence in the Council. Every interaction was a small step forward for humanity's place among the stars. As the evening wore on, delegates began departing. Some had to return to environments that could only sustain them for limited periods, others simply tired of the social obligations. Hyunwoo decided to make one final round before leaving himself. You should have left an hour ago, Jiwon said, checking her datapad. Security protocols recommend. I know what they recommend, Hyunwoo interrupted gently. But relationships aren't built by following minimum protocols. One more conversation, then we'll go. Jiwon's jaw tightened, but she nodded. They moved toward a group of smaller species representatives, beings from worlds that had little voice in council matters. Hyunwoo had made it his practice to listen to them especially. These were the people who needed advocates most. The explosion happened without warning. One moment, Hyunwoo was laughing at something the Minoan representative said. The next, the world became fire and thunder and flying crystal. He felt himself lifted and thrown backward. Heat seared across his face. Sound disappeared, replaced by a high-pitched ringing. He hit a wall and crumpled to the floor. Through blurred vision, he saw Jiwon on the ground nearby, blood streaming from her head. Smoke filled the hall. Emergency lights flickered on, bathing everything in red. Other beings lay scattered across the floor, some moving, many not. Hyunwoo tried to stand, but his legs wouldn't respond properly. He saw figures moving through the smoke. Security forces, perhaps, or something else. His vision darkened at the edges. He thought about his wife back on Earth, about his daughter who wanted to be a diplomat like him, about the peace agreement that would save so many lives. The darkness closed in, and Ambassador Hyunwoo's last thought was that he hoped his work would continue, that humanity would keep pushing for peace, no matter how many ancient species wanted things to stay the same, that someone would remember why he came here in the first place. Then he thought nothing at all. In the smoke and chaos of the shattered reception hall, 12 beings from 6 different species lay dead. But the bomb had been placed precisely, with careful calculation. Its primary target had been achieved. The human diplomat who dared to change the old ways would interfere no more. Above it all, in a secure observation room, Krenak watched the emergency responders work. His mandibles clicked in satisfaction. Messages would be sent, arrangements would be made, and the humans would learn their place just like every other upstart species eventually did. Some things, he thought, never change.